T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, everybody? Week 10 in the books. It was something, but we're getting through it week by week. We got a tie, so that's always fun and exciting. Those poor Detroit Lions just cannot figure it out.
Hey, they didn't lose.
They didn't lose. It's a positive. It's I feel bad. I like Dan Campbell, and I don't know if they're gonna get one. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Goff just sucks. I heard he was injured, but man.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. But as always, so we are going to give you 6-7 players and some rapid reactions. And what does it mean to your fantasy teams? What does it mean going forward? So Brian, start us off.
So I'm starting with a guy we talked about a few weeks ago, Antonio Gibson. He had 24 carries this last week to go along with 2 receptions, which was his largest amount of carries he's had since week 5. We've been thinking that he's been dealing with an injury, and he was off the injury report this last week. But he really just took control against a very stout defense. I'm not sure many people played him against the Bucs.
I didn't. I sat him where I had him. I sat him.
Yeah, I only played him where I had to, and I was very happy because I actually bet the under 10 fantasy points for him, and that did not go well. But he wasn't fantastic. I would be hesitantly optimistic. The opportunity is there, but this also was a positive game script, as weird as that sounds, against Tom Brady and the Bucs. Mm-hmm. But they had a strong hold on that game for most of the game. It was a 2-touchdown game. Touchdowns are very random, so we can't really say that he's going to be getting 2 touchdowns every game going forward. He did only average 2 and 2/4 yards per carry, or 2/3 yards per carry. So he did not have a great time running the ball. He had 60 yards on 24 carries. But the opportunity is there for a low-end RB1. The passing game work is not going to be great. He's getting around 2 to 3 targets a week, which is fine, but not going to get him into that solid RB1 territory. So I think it's really game script dependent with him, but I do have a lot more confidence with him going forward.
Yeah, we should hopefully see that take off. So next up, Mikol Gallup versus Dalton Schultz. So this was a big one, right? Schultz had been seeing a lot of work as a tight end and was a great, actually, tight end sleeper for most of this. But Gallup comes back from injury and Schultz is gone. Right, Schultz prior to this week was almost at a 20% target share. So weeks 2 through 9. Gallup comes back. He dropped all the way down to 6%. Now, obviously, it could just be a one-game, one-off, but that's a bad sign for Gallup to come back and automatically take such a drastic hit to Schultz. Gallup had a 15% share. Cooper dropped. We now have that 3-headed wide receiver mix, that 3-headed monster back into it. To me, this reminds me a lot of the Tampa Bay with Evans, Godwin, and when Antonio Brown was there, where you're never going to really be able to pick out who's going to boom, who's going to be the one that goes off versus who's going to be the most consistent. In my mind, I think, Godwin was typically the more consistent player, but maybe AB or Evans were the boom guys. I look at Lamb as the most consistent, the highest floor wide receiver, with Gallup and Cooper being the random, booms or busts. But I don't know, Brian, what did you think between those two guys, or those two analogies? You're on mute.
I agree. There we go. That CeeDee Lamb has the highest floor. And I think he has the highest possibility of just going off every week. Cooper is the boomer bust guy. Mm-hmm. I think he either has a great game or he has just 6 fantasy points or something like that. And I think Gallup is going to be a lot more consistent. I also like him because he is a CSU Ram, but I think he's just probably going to get 4 to 5 targets for like 40 to 50 yards every week. And if he gets a touchdown, then awesome. So my next guy is Hunter Renfro. So he is controlling the target share for the Raider offense without Henry Ruggs. It drives me nuts. The fact that this guy is beating out Darren Waller for target percent just drives me nuts. He's barely doing it. Renfro has a 22.6% target share the last 2 weeks. Darren Waller has 21.9. So they're right neck and neck. But we really thought that there was possibly going to be Brian Edwards filling in that Henry Ruggs role. He's not doing it. He has a 10% target share. He did get a touchdown this last week. So if you do have him, you might want to try and sell high. I don't have a lot of confidence in him. And I think if he does have any sort of role, Deshaun Jackson, is going to eat away at that role. But Renfro looks like a reliable wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 going forward. He has a limited upside, but he has an extremely solid 10-point floor every week.
Yeah, man, that Brian Edwards, that was a mess. I was big on it. I thought he was going to be good. It's not gone that way.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with him, but he is good, but not fantasy relevant.
Yeah, killing me. So next, interesting. So we talked about the Tennessee backfield. It might be now 3 weeks in a row trying to figure out what the hell's going on, right, with Henry gone. So Donta Foreman was the RB1 of the Tennessee Titans this week. So 35% of the snaps, AP 33, McNichols 27%. So, when Henry went down, Mike Vrabel said this is going to be a committee approach from here on out. And that's really shown out to be what's happening. So I was really, really hopeful that McNichols would at least solidify the receiving work and get even a slight bump. It hasn't happened. At this point, I think it's completely stay away from this backfield. They're getting a third of the word each, and none of them are really doing great with it. You're going to catch a random touchdown here and there, but is it going to be Foreman, AP? Is it going to be McNichols randomly falling in? I would just really, really stay away. And to the point, so I think a lot of people are going to point to the Donta Foreman kind of taking over as positive Cam Akers news. I would push back a little bit. I don't think he's a great example. Matt Waldman had some really great film breakdowns, within the last 24 hours of not great explosion runs. Tom Gower. So the Titans had run blocking expected a 24 ranked backs. Foreman was negative 34. So it was just, he had a lot of blocking, but didn't do a lot with it. So he doesn't have the explosion anymore. It is what it is.
Hey, let me hold out hope for my boy Cam Akers.
I'm huge. I just don't think Foreman is going to be don't hold up Foreman as the best example. That's all.
That's fair. So my next guy I have is Mikol Hardman. So Mahomes is back to being Mahomes. Man, I love watching primetime games when Mahomes is just being Mahomes. And Hardman is back to just being a gadget player in this offense.
Woo!
Yeah, it's really just running through. It seems like Kelsey, Hill, and the running back. But did you see the shade that the Roto World blurb was throwing on Gerald Williams being the LSU running back? I loved that. It was fantastic. But Hardman had the fewest receptions or fewest targets since week 4. So he only had 3. But it's weird because these last few weeks, he's actually been startable for the first time in his career in fantasy. But apparently the Chiefs didn't think so. They actually listed Josh Gordon as the starter ahead of him this week. Josh Gordon did nothing in the game besides run some wind sprints. But Hardman had been listed as the starter for the last 3 weeks. So I don't know if it's a coincidence that Hardman started for 3 weeks and the Chiefs had the 3 worst weeks of their offense with Mahomes.
It could be.
But I think Hardman, you can't really trust him anymore. He's back to being that guy that you have to hope for a touchdown. And I would not be playing him. And I'm not even sure if I would be wasting a roster spot on him.
Yeah, I always call Hardman is the king of the wind sprints. So it's kind of nature is reverting back to normal. So next, someone that we both love, both we talked about a lot. So Javonte Williams saw, if you look at the counting stats, nothing stands out really from yesterday. But, you just look a little bit past that, and he saw a not huge, but a very, very nice bump in snap share from yesterday. So all season, he was 50% and under snap share, really in the 42 to 45 range. Yesterday, he was 57% snap share. So this is huge because he's been sub 50. He's been under Melvin Gordon the entire year, but he's been pretty similar in touches. So, the whole thought process of Javonte for this year was the first half is going to be like a 50-50 split, like Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay from last year. Hopefully the second half he takes off. Yesterday could be that sign where if he starts to see that increase in snap share, his touches obviously are going to follow that. And if he was already getting equal touches to Melvin Gordon at a sub 50% snap share, this could be huge. This could be the sign that Javonte takes off for the end of the year and becomes, I wouldn't say a league winner, but as someone that is going to really, 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 really be a great benefit for your team for the second half of the year. And this is exactly the path that you're hoping for as a dynasty owner. So all great things. Hopefully it's more than a one game. So.
Yeah, and the one thing that's not on the stat sheet is he had a 20-yard rushing touchdown called back for a hold. Yeah. So if that was actually upheld, I think a lot more people will be talking about Javonte moving past Melvin this week. And I think this is a sneaky kind of 1 week in advance of what's going on. Because the Broncos, I'm a Broncos fan. They've really pushed all their chips into rebuilding. So as much as they don't want to admit it, they are.
Yeah.
So next I have the defenses to avoid. I have one that I think is going to surprise a lot of people. The Miami pass defense has actually been really good. I want to say really. I would say they've been above average the last few weeks. Their rankings in across the fantasy areas, their QB is ranked, or ESPN ranks them 27th against QBs. DraftKings is a 26th, and FanDuel 27th. And wide receiver, ESPN ranks them 30th. DraftKings ranks them 30th, and FanDuel ranks them 31st. So these fantasy platforms are not giving a lot of respect to this defense because of what they did the first half of the year. The last 3 weeks, Thursday night, they shut down the Ravens. There was a lot of yardage and a touchdown given up in garbage time, I think, on the last drive or so. But they completely shut them down. They also shut down Houston, which that's not that big of a deal. Still, just limiting, I think it was like 200, just over 200 passing yards and like 3 interceptions. Still is impressive. And they also really shut down the Bills pretty well for how high-powered that offense was being. So I think this is a big pickup this week. They're 15% rostered on ESPN, and they get Mike White in the Jets, which Mike White looked horrific this last week, unfortunately. So that might be the defense to play. And I do want to point out that last week I did say Fournette against Washington would be not a great play because Washington's defense has actually tightened up a little bit. And what did they do? Washington's defense has tightened up a bit. If it wasn't for all those receptions, Fournette would not have had a good day. So that's just a casual brag I have to put in there.
Yeah, very nice. This is one of those things that if you watch every week, we've been starting to, or Brian really does a great job with this, defenses to start against or defenses to avoid. And so far, I think you've nailed all 3 weeks. So, kudos to Brian.
Thank you.
All right. Rapid reactions before this ends. So one, Vita Vea, talking about the Buccaneers, has a bone bruise and a mild MCL sprain. He's not going to go on IR, so it might only be a 1 or 2 game miss. But obviously, right, Vea is huge in the run game. So, next week is the Giants, and after that, Jonathan Taylor and the Colts they're playing. So those are great matchups, especially for Jonathan Taylor with no Vita Vea. That's going to be huge. AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones is out for 1 to 2 weeks. So not like automatic smash opponents that he's going to face, but it's going to give you really nice value in this playoff push. Rashad Bateman, I feel like we've also talked about now a few times, but another 8 targets. So in 4 games, 6, 8, and 8. I mean, the guy is getting great work as a rookie, and after missing such a big part, such an important part in the beginning of the season. So he's quickly.
He's only owned in 33% of leagues on ESPN. So he's only rostered in 33.
stop that. Go get him. Gerald Everett, first game back for Russell Wilson. Obviously, Russ did not look good, but he went 8 for 63. They need to win games. And obviously it's a funnel offense between those two wide receivers, but they're going to need a third pass catcher to really step up. So Gerald Everett, if you're hurting for tight ends, could be a great guy to go get and, try to lock in some of that. Might have a really great boost here on out. And before we end, it's our favorite, the Robbie Anderson of the Week award, who, by the way, Robbie Anderson caught a touchdown.
It's Robbie Anderson
week. He did something fantastic. All right. So this one was tough because there were several guys that just did nothing, but there was one player above the rest that really, really highlighted the inability to do a damn thing. So without further ado, the Robbie Anderson of the Week award goes to Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki, back overboard, back over the bridge. Shout out, Jax Falcone. On 7 targets, he managed 0 yards on 0 receptions. So he was thrown to 7 times and did literally nothing with it.
Beautiful.
Quite impressive.
Very beautiful.
Very beautiful. That's a Robbie Anderson stat line for the ages. All right, everybody. So a little over 15 minutes, but, halftime is here and I'm done with. So thanks for sticking with us, and we will see you next week.
See ya.